Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. What will become of Chrisley Confessions if Todd goes to jail? In addition to their TV series, Todd and Julie Chrisley also host a podcast called Chrisley Confessions. The podcast released episode 187 this week. Presently, the couple releases a podcast episode once a week. As those who tune into the podcast regularly know, Todd and Julie make an effort to be consistent and try not to let anything stop them from doing new episodes. This has included recording episodes while on vacation. This has also included recruiting Savannah and Chase to pop onto the podcast in place of a missing parent. The big question fans that tune in to listen to Chrisley Confessions each week is simple. What happens to the podcast if Todd and Julie end up in the slammer? Fortunately, this was a question the couple answered during their most recent podcast episode. What will happen to Chrisley Confessions? During the first 15 to 20 minutes of episode 187 of their podcast, Todd and Julie reassured fans that they would continue to drop episodes of their podcast so long as they were able to do so. The couple didn't if they ended up behind bars. They, however, did proceed to tell fans what plans they had in place for the podcast if they reached a point in time where they could not do episodes of the podcast anymore. Will the podcast stop dropping new episodes of the show if Todd and Julie go to jail? Or does the couple have some sort of plan in place to make sure that never happens? Todd and Julie Chrisley explains their plans. After promising fans the show would go on as long as possible, Todd said that the keys would be passed to his children Savannah and Chase. He explained that if something happened preventing him and Julie from moving forward with the podcast, his children would absolutely take over. Todd Chrisley also promised his fans and followers that his children would include updates on how Julie and himself were doing if they were in a position where they couldn't do the podcast. Neither Todd nor Julie clarified that the something that might take them away from the podcast is jail time though. As those following the family knows, Todd and Julie Chrisley face up to 30 years behind bars following their guilty verdict. They are presently on house arrest as they await their sentencing hearing. Does it make you happy to know they have plans in place to continue Chrisley Confessions? Let us know in the comments. And keep coming back for the latest on Todd and Julie Chrisley. The laughter, the sass, the real talk. Chrisley Confessions has always been more than a podcast. It's been the Chrisley family's way of letting fans peek behind the glitz and glamour of Chrisley Knows Best and into the raw, unfiltered heart of their Southern clan. But now, as Todd Chrisley's future hangs in the balance amid his legal troubles, fans are asking a question no one wanted to face. What happens to Chrisley Confessions if Todd goes to jail again? It's a question filled with emotion, uncertainty, and maybe even a little bit of irony, because the show that was once a platform for truth-telling and transparency might be silenced by the very system Todd has been fighting. A legacy built on faith and family. Since its debut, Chrisley Confessions has been Todd and Julie Chrisley's weekly therapy session, a mix of humor, hard lessons, and heartfelt wisdom. Fans tuned in not just to laugh at Todd's quick wit, but to hear how the family navigated real-life issues with grace and a little bit of sarcasm. Todd often joked that the podcast was cheaper than therapy, but behind the humor was sincerity. He and Julie spoke about parenting, forgiveness, and the power of prayer. When their legal troubles began, Chrisley Confessions became a lifeline, a place for Todd to share his truth directly with fans without the media's spin. But if Todd is behind bars again, the comforting sound of his voice, that signature Southern drawl that could make even the harshest critics laugh, could disappear. Savannah to the rescue? Of course, where there's a Chrisley, there's always a backup plan. Savannah Chrisley, Todd's fiercely loyal daughter, has already proven she's not afraid to take over the mic. During her parents' first incarceration, Savannah stepped into their podcasting shoes with remarkable poise. She kept Chrisley Confessions alive, turning it into a platform for advocacy, faith, and family updates. She spoke openly about her struggles, the emotional toll of being guardian to her younger brother Grayson and niece Chloe, and the lessons her parents instilled in her. Fans respected her vulnerability, even when it came with tears. If Todd were to return to jail, Savannah would likely rise once again to the challenge. She's outspoken, media-savvy, and deeply connected to her family's fanbase. But the real question is, can she carry the same spark that Todd and Julie brought to Chrisley Confessions would undoubtedly be more mature and reflective. It might lose some of Todd's flamboyant humor, but gain a new layer of raw emotion and female empowerment. Savannah has found her own voice in the podcast world, one that balances faith, resilience, and accountability. The voice behind bars. Then again, knowing Todd Chrisley, it's hard to imagine him staying completely silent, even from a cell. During his previous prison stint, he managed to get messages to his family that made their way into public updates. There's even talk among fans that Todd could find a way to continue Chrisley confessions remotely, perhaps by recording approved audio messages that Savannah could play during each episode. It wouldn't be the same as his trademark banter, but it would keep his presence alive and fans connected. And if we know Todd, he'd find a way to make those messages unforgettable, mixing humor, faith, and even a few digs at the system. He once said, "You can lock up the body, but you can't cage the spirit." That quote might become the mantra for a new chapter of Chrisley Confessions. Julie's possible return. Let's not forget Julie Chrisley. The matriarch of the family brought a softer balance to Todd's fire. Her voice, calm, nurturing, and often the voice of reason, anchored the show. If Todd were to return to jail and Julie remained free, fans could expect Chrisley Confessions to return to its original form, with Julie leading the conversation. It would be a bittersweet twist. The woman who always held the family together once again stepping up to guide listeners through turbulent times. Julie's wisdom has always resonated deeply. Her faith-based reflections and motherly advice could help fans, and her family, process whatever comes next. She might shift the podcast's focus from scandal and survival to redemption and restoration. The fans' role in keeping it alive. There's something powerful about the bond between the Chrisleys and their listeners. Chrisley Confessions isn't just a podcast, it's a community. Fans have written letters, sent prayers, and defended the family online through every storm. If Todd goes to jail, it's likely that the Confessions community will rally harder than ever. Listeners might flood social media with supportive hashtags, clip favorite podcast moments, and share fan-made tributes to keep Todd's voice alive digitally. There's even speculation that the family could rebrand the show temporarily as the Chrisley Chronicles. A nod to continuing the story while Todd's away, but always keeping his spirit at the center. The business side of things. Beyond emotion, there's also the practical reality. Chrisley Confessions is not just a passion project, it's a business. It generates sponsorship deals, ad revenue, and helps maintain the Chrisley brand. Without Todd's active participation, the show's tone would shift, but that doesn't necessarily mean its success would vanish. The family has a loyal fanbase that tunes in no matter what. In fact, periods of drama often boost listener numbers. Savannah's version of the podcast could draw in a younger audience, while nostalgic fans would tune in just to hear updates about Todd's situation. In the world of podcasting, authenticity sells, and few families embody authenticity, even in chaos, like the Chrisleys. What Todd might want? Ultimately, if Chrisley Confessions continues without him, it would likely be with his blessing. Todd has always valued storytelling and truth, even when it hurts. He'd probably want his family to keep the platform alive as a testimony of resilience. In his own words, Todd once said, "Our mess becomes our message." That phrase might take on new meaning now. Whether he's free or behind bars, Todd would want the Chrisley message, one of grace, humor, and unwavering faith, to echo loud and clear. The future of Confessions. So what will become of Chrisley Confessions if Todd goes to jail? It might change shape, shift tone, or even pause temporarily. But one thing's certain, it won't die. The Chrisleys have built their lives around faith and family, and those foundations don't crumble easily. The show might become a weekly reflection led by Savannah, featuring heartfelt letters from Todd, guest interviews, and moments of laughter through tears. Fans might not hear Todd's booming laugh every week, but his legacy, his unfiltered honesty and love for storytelling, will live on in every episode. Because Chrisley Confessions has never just been about Todd and Julie. It's been about survival, forgiveness, and the messy, beautiful journey of being human.